What's going on, family? Welcome to the Family Table Podcast, where we talk about everything family entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much.
And today we have a very special guest. We have a man that's been in the mindset space for a very long time. And of course, as you all know, mentality and your mindset and how you actually think and manifest things are the most important things in our space. So I want to go ahead and introduce my man Moneybagrich. How you feeling, brother? How you doing?
I'm amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me on this morning. I feel good. How are you?
Great. I am great. I am great. And for the people who aren't aware, my name is Marcus, and this is Dr. T. And then we have Alex also on here as well. And Rich, I want to go ahead and first ask you, can you tell the audience like what you do, how you do things, who you serve in that regards?
Absolutely. And so, I go by Moneybagrich. People call me Rich, but my actual name is Darryen Richardson. And so, Darryen is more so the introvert personality. Rich comes into a play off of my extrovert personality, which is the person that, most people will end up meeting. And I'm a business mindset coach. And in doing that, I help people work on their behavioral patterns, their limiting beliefs, and the foundational systems into scaling their business to six, seven, eight figures.
That's awesome. That's
Nice, nice.
awesome.
So let me ask you this: what exactly do you do to help people through their mindset to get them to that 6 and 7 figure mark?
And so it may be a little bit of an old art nowadays with, just social media and everything. Everybody wants to put things on automation. Everybody wants to, email campaign everyone, but basically we go back and we just take time to really just have a conversation. And so once we have that initial conversation, basically we can break down, the four systems of mindset. And so the four systems of mindset are, the emotional, the mental, the physical, and then the financial. A lot of people try to focus on the financial up front, but they don't take care of the other three categories. And so, are you
Mhm.
emotionally ready to even be in business? Are you mentally ready to be in business? And are you physically ready to be in business? And that all equals towards, the gaining of finances.
Got you. So you're the first step before the finances come into the picture.
Sometimes, and so that's for startups, but I do help people that have already started their business and may need to just relay a center of foundation or recreate new systems and everything and just catch a good flow. I've come into businesses where they're already doing 100,000 a month and we do an additional 100,000 a month. And so it's just pretty much wherever you are in business, we can sit down and we can really have that conversation to see what's next for you.
How long have you been doing this?
So, business mindset coaching full time, I've been doing it for about 3 years. I initially started it about 5 years ago, but it was in and out. I own a production company as well. And so, in my production company, I have about 54 employees slash contractors. We're in about 6 or 7 different states. And basically, I'm just the middleman. And so I help get clients in the door and then I help contractors and employees, get work based off of what they're good at, whether it's photography or videography.
What made you decide to do this?
And so my passion has always been really kind of helping people of, our hue. And so, I definitely grew up without having that kind of helping figure. And, I played sports, but I wasn't a sports person. Like even now, I don't play 2K or I don't play Madden or anything like that. Like, I've always been more so catered to the side of financial literacy. And so, when I was growing up, I definitely reached points of being homeless. I grew up in New York, and so Brooklyn, New York at the time, I was bad. I was definitely molded by my environment, and unfortunately, my mom did have to kick me out of the house at about 16 years old. So once she kicked me out of the
Ooh,
house, I had to really just process life on my own, and it wasn't easy. I didn't have financial literacy at the time, and so I bounced around from house to house and had to figure out my kind of situation until I joined the military. And even in the military, I wanted to be the bravado type of person that went for a combat MOS, and I didn't take an actual skill or a job. So my last year in the military on deployment, I said, man, I only have about a year left. Like, I'm gonna pretty much go back to the same situation because I can't leave here only knowing a combat MOS. I can't do that in the real world. And so
Mm,
I chose to read about 42 books on deployments. It was a
That's
seven and a
crazy.
half month deployment. And
wow.
basically, 12-hour days, 6 days a week, 130-degree weather, 86% humidity. And, everybody else, spent their money on just the things out there, or they spent their money on, cars when they got back. I chose to save up all of that. And in reading these books, I came out with a skill set and was able to angel invest into my first business in 2016. And it was just in the gaming industry. I like playing games, and I heard these two kids that had an idea. They basically just needed money, and I had nothing to lose. And so I knew I had my GI Bill to rely on for the time. So basically, they would pay you to go to school. And so I said, the worst case scenario, I'll graduate college, I guess, or whatever, and figure it out. But I can give them this money and hopefully take a chance. And so that's exactly what I did. I gave them the money. Attorneys got involved since they were underage, and basically we made like a 10-year deal, where I would get about 9% back on return. And over time, about 2018, I made that 20 grand back. And, fast forward to now, it's about 5 to 6 grand a month
That's crazy.
residually from that business.
Wow.
Dang.
And so,
Wow.
just using that to catalyst into different areas and different categories definitely helped me out along the way.
That has to be pretty impressive. I mean, to think now that something that you invested in a while ago as an angel investor is netting you $60,000 to $72,000 a year, which can feed into something else. Now, have you done that multiple times with something else, or is that the only one that you did?
And so I did that, yes, but not in the same concept. And so instead of doing it for somebody else's business, essentially, because I found out that, I only have a 10-year deal with them. And so in 2026, that
Mhm.
actually does end. And, I don't regret it because I've definitely made way more than my 20 grand. But at the
Mhm.
same time, just learning from that experience, would I go back and make a deal where it's indefinite? Absolutely. But I chose to create my own companies instead with the same kind of model. So pretty much every business that I get into, I take the middleman effect. And the middleman effect for me is pretty much, I just find the connecting pieces of two different areas. And so for the production company, that's connecting the photographers and the videographers to the clients who need that, type of thing. And so, that was what it started off with initially. Then it started growing into the business mindset coaching. And so I was doing the same exact thing, teaching other people how to scale that business. And I met a mentor along the way. Once I got past 6 figures, he said, I went to him and I said, hey, I'm not making enough money. I thought
Right.
6 figures was a lot at the time. How do I get to the millions? And he
Mhm.
said, a lot of people try to hyper focus on the million, and that's okay. But for what you're trying to do, he said, I feel it's better if you just focus on getting really good at making 6 figures. And so that's essentially what I did. And I interpreted what he told me in the way of build a business 10 times and get it to 6 figures, I'll be at $1 million. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just
Mhm.
started opening up different businesses and getting them to 6 figures. And that was my only goal, just to keep scaling to 6 figures. And so I got really good at getting things to 6 figures. And before you know it, I had 4 different businesses that all hit 6 figures. And, with all of them combined, I'm over a million already without even getting to 10 yet.
Wow.
So
Nice.
I really was like, okay, I'm good at this process. And what I created was a process. Instead of making money, I started learning the art of creating money. And so
Mm.
it became a lot different for me, and easier to teach other people how to do it, even in industries that I've never been in before.
So I want to ask you this, right? And you kind of touched on process. When did that realization come in for you as far as if I create this process and perfect that process, this is something that will obviously get me to wherever I want to go? Like, because a lot of people try to rush into things, they try to hurry up and put all the pieces together, but they don't find the right process to actually get them through the stage and make it repeatable. So when did you find out that that was like the key for you in order to grow?
So basically, for my situation, it it was a little peculiar because even after I invested the money in 2016, coming out of the Marine Corps, on top of that, I definitely had some PTSD things going on, and I did have a fiance at that time, but I couldn't assimilate back into regular society properly, and so in 2017. I'm not really close with my family, and the only person that I was really close with, she ended up dying. That was my grandmother, and for whatever reason, that kind of put me over the edge, and
Oh
I
wow.
ended up in the psych ward for about a month, and things definitely didn't go my way, and I did have good credit coming out of the military because I didn't spend money while I was in there like that, and so I did have Navy Fed cards open for 30, 40,000, and at that time I literally just went to bars, and I just moved to Florida with the female that I was with, and I didn't have any family or friends out here, and so my mentality was I need to just put myself into these situations and make friends, or just try to be happy in some type of way. And for me, my vice was drinking at that time. And I just went to the bars and I said, it could be 12, 15 people at the bar. And I said, hey, everybody's tab on me, everybody, this and that. And I blew all the money that I had in about like 2 to 3 months. And, I got taken to court by Navy Fed. And once they did take me to court, they understood that I was a veteran and that I had PTSD in some type of way. And so they cleared the debt, but I still wasn't mentally there. And so right after they cleared it, I went and I ran it back up again. And that's when, they decided to lock that credit profile for me. And so I haven't had access to credit, and I, essentially wouldn't have access to credit for about 7 years. And so
Right.
in me building these businesses, to answer the question, the only thing that I had to rely on was hyper process. And so
Hmm.
learning from the Marine Corps, and learning from just growing up in New York, it's either you do it or you do it. There is no plan B or anything like that. And so I had to develop a process that won. And in me getting into the production company, I did join a network marketing company beforehand, and people told me, like, straight up, hey, it's an MLM. You're it's a pyramid scheme, whatever you want to call it. And I said, hey, that's cool because there's people in here making money. I said I just have to make myself one of the 1%. And they said, well, it's extremely hard to do that. Only people at the top are making money. And so I said, well, if I can make myself one of the people at the top, I'll make a lot of money. And I ended up actually doing that. In about 6 to 7 months, I made about 65 grand. And that was through some bonuses as well. And, I went up about 3 or 4 promotions, and then I quit. But what it taught me was how to talk to people, how to formulate a plan once people said no, how to process the no's, how to work upon the compound interest of working with individuals. And so if I hit 1,000 people up, I can expect 500 people to read it. And then from those 500 people, 200 people might actually respond back. Out of the 200 people, 100 people might agree to sit down with me. Out of the 100 people that sit down with me, 50 people might actually commit. Out of the 50 people that commit, 25 people might do it for a year. After 25 that do it for a year, I might get 10 solid customers.
Going back to you saying that you had a mentor and he said for you to make $1 million and you figured out a process or a system in order to do that. What was that process that to scale multiple businesses to six figures?
And so the process is easy and not easy at the same time, because it's not as simple as I can just give you a step by step play. But the process is more so, what are you trying to do? And so based off of whatever industry you're in, you always have to go, the process starts off with, what is the end goal? And so every time I sit with a client, or every time I sit with a business, I always line out, the very first thing I do is, what is your overhead, or what is your budget? How much are you bringing in, whether you have a 9 to 5 or if you have the business already? How much are you bringing in, and how much do you need to spend right away? And
Hmm.
so once we get that out of the way, I can see how much we need to do a month, or every 6 months or every year. And basically we can make projections off of that, but that scales into, all right, now what's your 1 month goal, what's your 6 month goal, and what's your 12 month goal. And those are three different key points along your business where people need to know, the present, the near future, and the distant future, pretty much is what I say. And so once we understand what your goals are within respect to time, then we can hash out how much you actually need to do as far as value, or if you make a product, and so once I understand their numbers, okay, well, what are you trying to give? Is it intellectual property? Do you have a physical service? Do you have a physical product? Are you inviting people to do something? Like, what is the actual sale point? And so understanding that, we can break things down to numbers. And so if somebody has two key products, one is $100 and one is $50, okay, if you're trying to get $1,000 a month, we need to sell 10 of the $100 products.
Hmm.
If you have 50, then we need to do double that. And so we can break it down to the very specific T point. And that's what a lot of people don't do. And so the process lines up exactly what your goals are and how we exactly hit them with what you have.
It's interesting you say that because for me, I've been in multi-level marketing. Now, mind you, I haven't done it in the last couple of years, but from 2008 on until a couple of years ago, that's been my life, and that's what Marcus and Alex have seen. And what I can honestly say, what people don't realize is the relationships that are formed in multi-level marketing on a global, not just, in your town, in just, in your state, in the United States. On a global scale, you meet so many people. So when you're dealing with their business today, with the way things have changed now, now it's gone from multi-level marketing, even though there's still a lot of people that still do the industry, but
Honestly, I don't. And so that comes from the structure of actually setting them up in the way that I do. And so, I do feel like I provide a different level of viewpoint to the actual overall business structure. On my podcast yesterday, I actually had a guest, and, he was shocked when I told him the percentage amount that I take from my guys. And I told him, I only take 18%. He said, 18%? And he's like, I take a minimum of 40%, they get 60, but 18% is too small. And I told him, well, it depends on what your focus is. For me, I have 54 individuals in there, and I want to give the power back to the people, almost like GameStop. And so for me, I'm trying to be the YMCA for financial literacy. And so I'm not looking to take the most amount of money that I can from an individual while still letting them be profit. I'm just trying to take a little cut, but introduce them to a world of entrepreneurship, and all the people in my company are black and Latino. And so, I'm creating job structures for people to do what they want within their passion level, but also giving them the freedom to do it. I don't have, a non compete within my clauses or anything like that. I have people come and go all the time. It's an open door policy, but you know, at first the 18% might seem a little small, but from MLM, I learned the power of quantity. And so imagine 50, 54 individuals, if they do a photo shoot, let's say at a low point of 250 a week, that's 18% of that times 50, so the numbers will add up over time, and I have a definite infinite potential to grow that because my business isn't solidified in just one space. We can definitely multiply anywhere in any state as long as I can get a client that needs some kind of contractor to do something. And so pretty much, it just enables me to be on the back burner more so than be an upfront leader. And so I do have managers in charge of the actual over, production. This past weekend, we did have some people here in South Florida go shoot a event in Hard Rock Stadium, the Orange Blossom Classic for
Mhm.
the HBCUs. And it's just us and ESPN on the field, but I was in Boston. My operations manager was there with them, and there was about 8 of them there that just do the ground management stuff. I'm more so on the back end.
do you feel that and I like to ask this question because I feel like that it's a greed factor. That's just me. That's just me. Um, that your people are much more apt to be like, hey, I'm getting all this help, 18%. That's not bad. I mean, they're going to feel that way anyway, because it's like, well, this is my business and I'm having to give up the money. They're going to feel that way anyway. But, no matter what, it doesn't matter if it's 18, whether it's 40, they're still going to feel some kind of way because it's like, this is my baby and I'm having to give up the money. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't be where they are had they not given up the money and gotten the support from you. But do you honestly feel that 40% of somebody's company, their dream, what they decided is high?
So it depends on the situation that you want to focus that. And so 40% can be high if they have lower income thresholds, but 40% can be equivalent to 18% if they're getting really high paying jobs.
Mm,
That
okay.
makes sense. That makes sense. So it really depends on the value of the income that they're getting, because that makes sense. That makes sense. So, like you said, that from one company you have 54 employees, right? And that's the production. But you say you have what, three or four, right?
Yes.
So, how many
Yeah.
employees do you have in total?
And so I don't really count the employees for the gaming company since I'm the silent partner on that. That's the investment. It's still I'm still there, of course, but and I still have to pay taxes from it. But I definitely I'm not in the actual business structure. I haven't even talked to those guys in about like 2 years now, but it's still I'm part of the company. I'm definitely within their log works and everything. And then, for the business mindset company, we just started adding people on because I didn't really know how to teach people how to teach people because the way I teach people is from experience. And so it's not as, pinpoint as okay, well, you just show them this and then this is what they get. That's why I call myself a business mindset coach versus just a business coach because I can't teach somebody how to really understand someone else's behavioral patterns as much. I can definitely do things like DISC. I definitely did do some DISC certification and all that type of stuff. And so I did drop out of college, but while I was in there, I studied the psychology aspect of things. And once the GI Bill ran out, there was no need for college for me anymore. I was already on my own entrepreneur path, and so I just used it for the money that it was giving me. They literally paid me to
Mm-hmm.
go to school, so why not? And the things that I did learn in there and some of the connections that I did made, I got my first contractor for ROV Productions, which is the production company, in college. And it was a simple conversation of, hey, you have a camera and I don't, but if I get you business, do you mind me taking a percentage of what
Right.
I get you? And he said, absolutely. And so over time, it took me about, 2 to 3 weeks and I got him a bunch of bookings. And eventually I bought my own camera and I learned how to do the camera inside and out and whatever. And it was me and him. And those two cameras led to four cameras. Those four cameras led to eight. Those eight cameras led to adding four more people to the company. And it just started to grow from there. And I was able to get so comfortable that I can take people out of their jobs. I have some people that are full time in my production company and, they used to work full time at Apple or grocery store or whatever, but now they do something that they like and they do it on their own
Right.
time. Now there is the other side of that where there's some people in my production company that make no money because my guarantee is not to make them money. I don't have them on an hourly basis. And so you still have to work. I provide the level of jobs that I do, but if you're not actively posting on the calendar, if you're not actively involved, if you're not actively putting yourself out there, if your social media is not updated, I'm not going to promote you because you're going to make my company look bad at the same time. And so if it's a big job and we just need people in the room, yeah, they may get put in the mix sometimes, but they're not the go-to choice.
So I'm glad that you kind of said that because I want to highlight basically finding A players, right? Because there are obviously A players, B players, and so on and so forth. So, what is a way that you are able to kind of identify an A player in your field, right? I know it's kind of specific based on what profession you're in, but it's still a mindset of the type of person that you're looking for. So, can you just kind of go over for the people how you're able to find A players, how you're able to differentiate them, and how you're able to continue to push them and allow them to operate in their expertise as well. Because having a business, right, sometimes you don't want to relinquish certain control over certain things, but trusting that you found the right people and trusting that they're going to do something that's still in align with your company's vision is obviously very important. So just kind of go over how you're able to differentiate those type of people.
And so, ironically, I actually don't really go and secure most A players. I actually go for, B or C players, because what I hire for is I hire for attitude and I train for skill. And so that also tests me
Mhm.
as a leader. Basically, as a leader, if I can't recreate a certain level of success, then my company is already in a certain kind of foundation. And if I can't set those foundational principles in order to teach somebody else how to become an A player, then I'm already not an A company to begin with. But when people go out and specifically look for these A players, what ends up happening is a lot of these A players are, they have egos. That's like in basketball, if you were to go for a LeBron or go for a Jordan or go for a Curry, you're going to have a lot of stipulations that come with that versus if you pick somebody else up who it has skills. They may not have as much skills as these dominating factors, but over time they become moldable. How does somebody become a Curry? How does somebody become a James? How does somebody become a Jordan? And so really teaching them those foundational processes and principles to grow as a individual within their skill set, we end up creating a lot of A
That's
players.
good.
So I guess I have a pivot question from that then, right? How do you, in your own expertise, because you kind of mentioned earlier as far as that you dropped out of college, but also that when you were in the military, you read 42 books in a 7 month period,
Mhm.
right? So how important is becoming an A player in your own right, right? And how do you do that and then pass that off to your team, right? Because somebody can be an A player, but not know how to translate that to other people. So how are you able to kind of bring both of those together to make sure that your company stays successful or companies stay successful?
And so you have to find your why. And so in me finding my why, a lot of people think it's only one thing. Your why could be several different things at the same time. And one of my biggest driving factor whys was to make a point to everybody who didn't think I would make it, because I did. I got expelled from high school. I got kicked out of my house. I was homeless for almost 2 years. I didn't do a lot of things. And, how I grew up, I was gang involved and everything at a certain point in my life. And so people didn't think I was going to make it. And
Mm,
so that's a motivating factor for me and drives my why to be like, hey, not only am I here, but I'm dominating in my industry, and that comes from the Marine Corps. They don't give up. We're the first ones in, and really just being able to take yourself to a different learning threshold and push the limits, almost like David Goggins, where I don't know if you know his story, but being able to push the limits past your body and past your mind, that's what I've been able to do. And so there's certain nights, at one point, maybe 3 years ago, where I was up in the civilian world for about 72 hours. I didn't sleep. I made myself so booked that I didn't sleep, and I was maybe 5 minutes away from home, and I crashed my car into a tree because I fell asleep.
wow.
And I completely totaled my car, but that didn't really stop me because my mind had a pivot and I had shoots to fulfill. And at that moment it was only me and one other person in the production company. And so instead of just canceling all the shoots, I said, hey, I got to find people to fill my slots. And
Mm,
that's exactly what I did. I found people to fill my slots and I just took a percentage. And then I started to expand even more and really grow on that threshold. And so when it comes to mindset for me, it's a constant competition, and competition is necessary for everyone because it keeps, iron sharpens iron, and everybody thinks like, oh, we're not competing, we're all a team. And it's cool, we are, but at the same time you have to understand that the people around you are going to be the biggest driving factors for you. And so
Right.
if you don't have people
Mm-hmm.
that are pushing for the next level around you, then you're probably in the same spot. And so I make sure that none of my employees, none of my contractors, they never show up before me. They never, do more work than me. in the aspect, I never let them outthink me in that aspect. I'm always learning, I'm always progressing. I tell everybody every single year, and at this point, every single 6 months, you have to meet me again because I'm a different version of myself. And, the information that I add on, the amount of things that I put into play, the courses that I, purchased, the things that I invest into for myself, going to events. Me and Marcus were talking earlier where I said, I didn't make it to InvestFest because I went to Podcast Summit, and just the information that I learned there, instead of being an event hopper, I said no. Yeah, I'm gonna make myself upset for missing InvestFest this year because I haven't fully applied everything that I learned from Podcast Summit first. And so now
Mm.
I have these extra products, I have these courses, I have the online presence stuff that I learned from there. So next time InvestFest comes up, I'll be fully ready for it. But making sure that I take advantage of every situation to pass 100% is what really gets me there.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that because there are times when we would be like, "Dang, we missed this event," you know. And I remember Alex saying one time, "No." He said the exact same thing. To be quite honest, he said, "No, I'm not going to go because I haven't applied the information from the previous one." And sometimes it's like a mixed bag. It's like you need to be in a room, you know, because people really hadn't seen us the first 6 7 months of the year because we were basically zoned in. And then when we did Invest Fest, they were like, "Wow, we didn't know how serious you guys were." It was like sometimes you have to separate yourself, in order to elevate. Some separation sometimes creates that elevation. But I know, like you, like we honed in on our products. We became the fanpreneurs. We switched. I literally had my cousin call me yesterday, Adrian. She was like, "Okay, so you guys aren't doing social currencies anymore. You're not doing the trading aspect. You're the fanpreneurs." I said, "We've evolved because there are times when you have to evolve, and you always have to, in a sense, really kind of sort of reinvent yourself because you got to stay up to date on everything. There's so
Mhm.
much that is coming out. And if you're not up to date on things and you're still staying at that same level, people are going to pass you up. And we're not in competition. We're in competition, but we're not in competition. Let me say it that way. Okay. I always say I'm not in competition with anybody but myself. Okay. That's who we're in competition with. And are you doing your best? And I literally said, "Alice, we could be doing more." I literally had this conversation yesterday. We need to be doing more. We need to be doing better. We're not working at our full capacity the way we should be. And we are destined for even greater greatness. And so it's really, like you said, it's a mindset. I personally wish that I had sometimes that Marine Corps. And as I get older, seriously, as I get older, it's like, man, not getting the right sleep, like you said, can affect your whole body. And I literally had a conversation with them this morning about, wow, I actually slept through the whole night and I don't feel tired. And that affects, so making sure our health is on point. That's something that we are all working on. Alex is the juice man. I'm sitting here drinking my juice as we speak, just changing everything so we can be at the best person, the best business that we could be. Because if we're tired, not eating right, financially stuff gets messed up and you're just not able to work at your best capability. And so just to hear you say that, just like, "Hey, I didn't sleep for 3 days and that affected me." You can't just go, 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 go like that. You can't. And you could have killed yourself. You honestly could have killed yourself. So when you think back on that, would you do it again? Or,
Absolutely.
or was it a lesson for you?
And so maybe it's the Marine Corps, or maybe it's just the mindset that it's involved into. And so the way my mind works now is I did it again immediately right after,
Mm.
and so,
So
at
how
this
did
point,
you handle it this time?
mm,
Did you handle it differently? Because you said, "Okay, I know if I stay up for these 3 days grinding, that I may not need to drive, or somebody may need to drive me," because you learn from the first time. And that's generally what happens. It's a muscle memory. Like, "Oh, if I do this, I know I'm going to get this. So I better put something in place so I won't have that situation happen next time around."
Yeah, so I was awake, but I was awake at home now. Now I hired
That's
people.
what I mean.
Yeah, now I hired people, but even till still today, I only sleep about 3 to 4 hours a day, max, and my body is now conditioned to fully function off of just 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And I definitely got piece of that from the military, but just even conditioning that back in civilian world and just understanding that I have a goal. And so for me, at when I was 25, I'm 31 now. When I was 25, I made a commitment to say, hey, we've grown up in these institutionalized programs where we are literally programmed to think and react a certain type of way. You go to middle school, you go to class, what do they have for you? They have a schedule. They have, first name, last name on the paper, put the date, whatever. Then you go to college and you have to do the same thing, and so that's 4 years, and then another 4 years, and then another 4 years, middle school, high school, college. You're looking at about 12 years minimum. And so I said, you know what? The average PhD, if they do what they need to do, is about 10 years or so. And so I said, if people can commit that same amount of time and stress to college, I should be able to commit that same amount of time and stress to business. And so
Mm,
this is my business stress. These are my business
mm,
stipulations. I can't sleep more than 4 hours. I will make myself get up. I will make myself do what I need to do to get to the next level. And so when everyone else is sleeping, even if I feel like I don't have anything else to do, I'm on YouTube University looking up different stuff. I'm looking up different programs. I'm making myself, mentally aware to different things and learning about different things. And so my 10-year goal is to do that by 35. And so
mm,
at 35 is where I draw the limit, not for a money threshold or, hey, I need to hit this number amount by then or anything, but I will give myself 10 years to comfortably make myself uncomfortable. And so within these 10 years, I'm doing absolutely everything that I can. I'm spending all the money. I'm losing all the money. I'm gaining all the money. I'm investing. I'm doing all of that stuff. And that doesn't mean after the 10 years I'll stop, but I will dramatically change my lifestyle for
Let
sure.
me. You mind if I
okay.
second this real quick? Um, so you mentioned, and I want to pivot because you this is a mindset shift that you had said you made for 10 years, and you said you also made a mindset shift when you were in the PTSD period of your life. Like, how were you able to get, like, what mindset shift did you do to get yourself out of that moment or period of time where you were, like, spending all the money, you were, buying everybody drinks, you were, like, what made you shift and say, what, how can I get myself out of this moment to be able to do that 10-year span that you just said?
And so, coming out of the military, a lot of different people were proud of me and everything. And they were like, oh, you did something, that a lot of people don't do and everything. And it automatically put a weight on my shoulders up, second to the weight that I already had on my shoulders. And so, for the sake of them now, not even just myself, I couldn't lose because I'm like, hold on, I can't, disappear into the military for 4 to 5 years and, come out with this credit score and, this amount of money and success and have absolutely nothing to show for it. But then came my biggest motivating factor till today, which is my mom. And so we've never had that connection since I've been an adult where, she kicked me out. And I never really understood the reasoning as to why. Because she, and that was part of the reason why I studied psychology as well, because I wanted to understand the mind more, like what makes people do certain things or have certain actions. Like, yes, I was bad. I was definitely bad, but I wasn't bad to the point where I brought danger to the family. I wasn't bad to the point where I really put people in situations or anything. I wasn't a bully. I wasn't, fighting for no reason or anything, but I just didn't take anybody's crap. And so in school, I fought to defend myself, and that's how I interact in life. I fight to defend others, and I fight to make sure that we have certain things available. And sometimes that came in the form of a swing. Sometimes that came in the form of insubordination, but it was a fight regardless. And so in 2018, is when I officially told my mother, because I've always tried to somewhat rekindle the relationship, and it's always been me, the one that was reaching out. And so I remember the date exactly, specifically date and time, September 17th, 2018, at about 7:02 p.m. I called her and I said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to start this production company. Like, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." And she laughed in my face. And in her laughing in my face, it really triggered something in me, because her first response was, "What do you think you're going to get from that? Do you think you're going to get celebrities? You think you're going to get TV shows, magazines? Like, who do you think you are?" And I didn't really know how to process that at the time, and so it hurt. And that was the last time I had a conversation with my mom, because I chose to not engage in something that I wanted just because I wanted it, but it wasn't healthy for me. But I also made a promise to myself, and I said, someday I'm going to be on stage, and I have to fill a room of a minimum of about 250 people. And when I do fill that room, either one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to fly my mother out there, or I'm going to be on stage and I'm going to give her a phone call. And I'm going to say, "Hey, Ma, you know, everything that you told me that I couldn't do, I'm gonna do it." And I did do it. I did get TV shows. I do have feature films in my production company. I do have magazines. I do have celebrities that we've worked with. I have deals with Hard Rock Stadium, Bacardi, Denny's, documentaries. We have a voiceover from Morgan Freeman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do have these connections, but in me saying all of that, I'm not saying it to rub it in your face. I'm saying it to say that I forgive you, because I understand that you were projecting something that you couldn't do on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the relationship that I want to create at that point. And so that's a driving factor for me, because I've never thrown an event yet. And I definitely haven't filled the room with at least 250
Mm-hmm.
people. So for me, I haven't talked to my mom since.
I
And
have to
so,
chime in on this. This is bothering me 1000%. As a mother, as a parent, I can't even begin to even think that and I know that there are parents that are out there like that, that don't support, or it's because they're dealing with their own pain, they're dealing with, but just to tell your child that you don't believe in them, that's hurtful for me to even hear you say it. I'm just being very honest. um I tell my sons, you can do anything that you want to do. You have the capabilities of doing any and acquiring anything that you want, but you're going to have to put the work in to do it. It's not going to come easy. It's not going to come the way you want it to come. It's going to, as a matter of fact, it's going to come when it's unexpected. Okay. But you will get it if you put in the work. And work doesn't necessarily mean it's hard work, because there's a difference between, oh, I work hard. No, it could be, you could work smarter and get to it. I do believe in working smarter, but I do believe that you got to put in your dues. But just hearing you say that breaks my heart, that she was not supportive enough of your dream of something that you want to do, to take yourself. It's funny. I was watching something last night. Being from Chicago, I was watching The Shy, and the mother did not. She was tearing down the dream of her child, and I was just like, "What is wrong with people?" Because they come to you for validation. Children generally come to you for validation. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, okay, that's great. And I'm not saying that I've always been 1000% yes to everything, but if I wasn't, I gave a reason why, as to why not to tear somebody's dreams down. Because if you didn't have the backbone that you have, then you may not be where you are right now. And so, like you said, there are times when you do have to separate yourself from those individuals who don't believe in your dream. I'm a big time visionary, so I see things in completion. I see us as a family, because we're different from everybody else on stage. I can't even begin to think. There's not a day that doesn't go by that I am not grateful for being in business with my sons. It's and my husband. It's like, hey, this is great, because you don't see that anymore, and we want to break that. My, me, just what I can. No, it's about we, because if your family is not with you, You can't be up there by yourself. So, and when I say family, it doesn't always mean blood. It can be those individuals that you're very close to, that you formed a
Right,
family
extended
with.
family.
But as a mother, I'm going to say this to you. I'm very proud of all the accomplishments that you have done. Whether you have filled a room with 250 people or whether it was 20 people, it takes work, it takes dedication, and it takes time. And you should be proud of yourself for doing that. So I'm just going to extend my mommy to you. You
Thank
know,
you.
this mommyhood to you. I am proud of you. Look at what you have accomplished. Look at what you have overcome. Look at the people that you have helped. And that, my friend, is what she should be proud of. Not so much as the monetary gain, but the level of impact that you have been able to create for other people. That I'm proud of you for.
Thank you, thank you, and
You're welcome.
just
I'll be ready to
I
fight
don't even
tomorrow.
I don't even regret it because my we grew up super religious, and so they're also 7 day
Mm.
Adventists. That
Mm,
side of my family, and so that's where a lot of judgment came from. I was always the rebel. I was always the black sheep, to where I would question things to a certain point, or question how processes were done, and none of them are entrepreneurs or even in
that's Marcus.
aspect of entrepreneurship. And so my relationship, I definitely don't go to church as much as I should, but my relationship with God himself is superb. And for
That's all
me
that
to
matters.
understand that God gives his strongest soldiers one of the biggest
Hmm.
tasks, I've definitely understood that from a long time ago. And so at points where I do feel tired, that's also my mindset, as I have other people, that I need to, do things for. It's beyond me, building something that will outlive my name, because it comes to a point, as when people think about history, everybody likes to still say names like, Malcolm X, and, Rosa Parks, and all these, Dr. King and everything, but at what point do we become the new level
Thousand
of
percent.
history? When do
Correct.
they start saying our names? And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm losing that sleep for a reason. I'm losing, going out with people and doing all these things. I don't buy Gucci or Louis or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I do have a good handful of exotic cars, but that's also a business. You know what I'm saying? And even now, like, I'm a first generation millionaire, like an actual millionaire, and I live in a studio still. Like, but I have three
That
offices.
But that speaks
Exactly.
to the level of what's important to you.
Exactly.
It's
And
like,
me having this studio, I can afford an office in Hollywood, Florida. I have an office in New York. I have an office in Fort Lauderdale. You know what I'm saying? I have actual assets. I have acres of land in Virginia. I have different things everywhere else, because I'm a single man. Nobody comes into my house. I have two dogs and I have a nice backyard. I don't really need a whole lot personally. And I'm not somebody that's super materialistic. And so, in me building things, I'm building things that can be tangible and of use to the people around me. I don't want to build things for just me. And I don't want just me and my businesses to have success. And so, a lot of times, I do go in and I'll help people that genuinely just need help, even with business mindset coaching. Like, I don't go in there and just out the gate say, hey, I'll do this for free for you, but I engage people on that level of passion, and I see exactly where they want to go. And that's why I like to have that face to face conversation with them, where I don't like to do as many Zoom calls, or that's why I'm not online. With because a lot of people ask me, like, hey, how's your follower account not as big as it should
Hmm.
be? Because I have been in a couple of magazines. I've been featured in Vibe magazine. I've been featured in Elements, and and I'm pushing for Forbes. I'm talking to the lady right now, but for local businesses around me, I'm responsible for about 15 million plus dollars into local pockets of black entrepreneurs. And
that speaks
I, I
volume.
I don't really promote on social media too much, because I'm not the one that believes, like, I'm not gonna make an Instagram post that's like, if you do these steps, like, you know what I'm saying? I want to affect people at a core level. I want to talk to people in real time, and like, I understand social media is necessary, and so I do share highlights, I do share what's available, I do share those things, but it's very saturated. I don't have 5 posts a day to post for you, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I don't have an influx of posts to take you to the moon and tell you step by step process of everything. If you want to talk to me, come and have a conversation. That's what I want.
That's what I like to hear.
That sounds like Alex. Part of that sounds like Alex, and part of that sounds like Marcus, because it's like sometimes you want that count, so you can definitely be reaching people, but it's the behind the scenes. If you're putting in the work, but you got to put in the work. You can't expect to think that it's just going to come. But like I said, I truly commend you for what you have done. And it just speaks volumes to your character. That's another thing. And I know they
Yes.
teach you that in the Marines as well. Um, character. Okay. And it also speaks to, so when you talk about giving back, we talk about giving back all the time,
Hmm.
right? And Marcus Alex, I'm sorry if I'm, you know, overstepping a little bit, and taking on
You're
the
good.
call. But what would you say is your favorite thing to give back community wise? And it doesn't necessarily be community, just something that's a love for you. You help a lot of people, but there's got to be something that you just love to do. What would you say that is for you?
I love to give people back time,
Mm,
because that's the one thing that people nowadays feel like they don't have enough of. And for the level that I've gotten my businesses to, God forbid I were to die tomorrow, all my bills would still be paid. All my accounts would still flow. I could go on vacation and not come back, and everything would still be covered. Everything that I do at this point, and that doesn't mean I'm a multi millionaire or anything, but my lifestyle is very comfortable, and I have the means to cover my comfort. And so, in
and
me
that's what's
doing
important.
that and me saying that, I teach people how to take their time back, because what I realize is not enough people spend enough time with
Hmm.
themselves. And so they don't even know who they are anymore. They don't know what they truly like. They don't know what they truly want to do. They don't know what they can do anymore, because we're sucked into, I got to take my business to 100 million, or I got to do this, or I got to go to work and I got to go clock in, and I got to, everything has been put on a hyper fixated schedule that doesn't really exist. And sometimes I wake up, I do a lot. Sometimes I wake up, I do nothing. Sometimes I wake up and I do both. But just having the freedom to do that is what I want to give, and what I love to give back to people is, you have a
That's
choice.
important.
That's great.
That's
That's
important right there.
great.
I like that. I like that. Does anybody else have any other questions before we close out?
No, it's just been a
Yeah,
great
it's great.
interview. Do you have any questions for us?
I would have
Mhm.
a lot of questions. This would turn into a whole nother podcast.
We have a few more minutes, so go ahead and ask.
And so, in developing the friendpreneurship, what do you guys focus your values on when you work together?
It depends. So we have core values within the family, right? So like family first, integrity, social responsibility, resiliency, and a lot of different things, right, that go along with it. But like the key thing that we like as a family, I think for us to continue to get along is communication, right? So I think that the amount of communication that we have, understanding each other's personality types, is something that we uh work on every day, right? How to talk, how to speaking to somebody, how they speak, how they are receptive, being not listening to respond, but listening to understand. Like those type of situations is what really helps us as a family, as a fanpreneur, uh, you know, bring those core values into practice, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And then,
It's
when people see you guys, what do you want people to get from after meeting you, whether it's, both in sales, but both personally? So, business and personal wise, what does somebody feel like they can attain from a relationship with, the friendpreneurs, personally and business wise?
Yeah, my man, you can answer that, or Alex, whoever
Alex, you
one.
want to answer that? You want me to answer that?
I'll let Dr. T answer that one.
I know they always feel that we're a family, meaning that they feel like they're a part of a family. We always extend love, and some people don't have that family environment. So when they come into our community, they feel like they're with family. And sometimes that's all that somebody really needs, is just to feel like they are part of something, that they, they may not have that support system, that they would get if, they had a family. There are a lot of broken homes. I mean, my mom was a teenager when she had me. I was married when I had the boy. So for me, family was important. I remember growing up, I knew what it was like not growing up with a father, but I did have the love and support of a family that was amazing. And I had a love and support of an extended family, so my, she's my grandmother to this day, Ernestine. And she was my babysitter, at 3 months old. And I was treated more like family than from my father's side of the family. Okay. So that's why family is so important to me. Someone feeling that they don't have family, that's one of the reasons why in the Black community there's so much brokenness, because they feel like they're by themselves. That they, I've asked Marcus and Alex, I think some of their friends, when I remarried and their dad and my current husband, they were at Six Flags together, their father, their bonus dad, and them saying, one of the kids said, "Who are they?" They said, "Oh, that's our dads." It was like, what? They get along. And so when you can show the example of what family can be, doesn't necessarily have to be blood, but it does have to be a level of respect. Okay. There does have to be a level of respect. And it's really about who cares for you. Their bonus dad, as their stepfather, I don't like to say step because I feel like he's a bonus. He's a quirky dude. He's funny. He's different, but he loves them. And he never tried to take the place of their dad. That was the one thing he said. He said, "I don't want to do that. I just want to be here for them when they need me." And they know he's there, hands down. So when you can have that extended family, or you can feel like you're a part of something that just, like, man, I feel safe. Because that's another thing. People want to feel safe. They want to know that who they're with, they're not being judged, that they're being understood. And that's what we provide. That's our number one thing. Outside of all the other things that we do, we want people to feel
And
as if
that's in
they're at
both.
home and not have to
Wow.
Yeah, and
feel
that's
like they're
both
on stage.
business and personal what they receive.
Correct.
Got
Hmm.
it.
Yeah,
Powerful. No, I definitely
Couldn't have said
appreciate
it
you
better
guys
myself.
for, bringing me on here for sure. I definitely, you guys are definitely, when I start doing virtual podcasts, I got to bring you guys on as a collective for sure. And, I'm, just definitely grateful for you extending, the mommy love. Definitely, that's something that I don't, typically get. But, every time I do tell that story, I do have about like 9 mothers now. So, it's great.
that's great. That's great.
Well, you have to, it's a, they used to say back in the day, it takes a village. And it's true. It does take a village. And not every mom and not every father is perfect. And you can't help who your parents are. So, and I'm not going to lie, Marcus and Alice take me for granted. Okay. I'm like, dude, like, seriously,
So,
because they mom is here. But we've had tragedy. Their dad died from COVID. And I almost did too, and I refused to leave them. And their dad tried as well. But at the end of the day, they know that they're loved. If I was to leave this planet today, they know that I love them, and that and I'm grateful for the relationship. For them. And so we're gonna go ahead and end the podcast. Alex, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
I just want to, thank you for taking the time to be able to be on the Family Table podcast. And for the people who don't already know you, can you just let them know where to find you at if they did want to reach out to you?
Absolutely. You can find me at Real Moneybagrich, or you can find me at the podcast page, which is Attractive Mindset, where we talk about the law of attraction and basically the backstory of how people got to the level that they are now.
All
Love it. Love
right.
it.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Leave a review in the podcast wherever you all listen to podcasts, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.